The year's 2138. Humanity, desperate for new energy, has turned to the moon. Our home, Earth, is choking on its own progress, and the lunar surface is our last, best hope. Under vast, transparent domes, cities float, and massive mining stations dig deep into the ancient rock, run by the monolithic lunar core industries. They promised us a future powered by clean energy, a new dawn for civilization. But promises can be deceiving. Deep beneath the moon's south pole, scanners picked up an anomaly, a colossal hollow region, miles wide, not of rock, but of metal. The readings were impossible, defying everything we knew about lunar geology. Commander Marcus Reyes, a soldier at heart, watched from the observation deck of Lunar Base Echo as the drilling began. His people were his world, and this entire operation felt wrong. The air itself felt heavy with foreboding. "Keep drilling," urged Dr. Elena Voss, the mission's chief scientist, her eyes gleaming with the thrill of discovery. "We're about to make history." Reyes could only nod, a knot tightening in his gut. "Just don't make a mistake we can't undo," he muttered. Sparks flew in the low gravity, a beautiful, terrifying dance of light. And then it happened. A deep vibration shuddered through the entire base. Tools clattered to the floor, lights flickered, and the deafening roar of the drill fell silent. "What the hell was that?" a worker yelled into the comms. Before anyone could respond, the scanner screens blazed red. Alien symbols, patterns no human had ever conceived, scrolled across the monitors. Reyes turned to the chief scientist. "Dr. Voss?" Her face was as white as the lunar dust outside. "It's not a natural pattern," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It's a code, a signal." As the dust from the tremor settled, the crew stared out at the drilling site in stunned silence. There, where the drill had been, was a door. 10 meters tall, curved like a crescent moon, it pulsed with a faint, ethereal blue light. Strange markings rippled across its surface like liquid metal. It was alive. "Seal this area," Reyes commanded, his voice breaking the spell. "No one goes near that thing until we know what it is." But Voss was captivated. "Don't you see what this means? Proof of an ancient, perhaps alien civilization. The first one humanity has ever found." Reyes sighed, his gaze fixed on the glowing portal. "And maybe," he said grimly, "it's a warning. But warnings don't turn a prophet." Lunar Corps' orders came down from Earth within hours, swift and absolute. "Open it." Reyes's protests were ignored. The corporation demanded results. Explosive charges were set. The countdown hit 0 and a flash of pure white light bleached the crater. A low, heavy hum filled the air, a sound that felt less like hearing and more like a heartbeat resonating deep within your bones. The strange metal split down the middle, and a thick glowing mist poured out, coiling and writhing like a living thing. Every instrument on the base went haywire. Radios screamed with static, heart monitors flatlined, and even the oxygen system sputtered. From within the mist, a shape began to emerge. It was tall, impossibly thin, and disturbingly human-like. It took a single, deliberate step forward, and then vanished like smoke into the air. Immediately, alarms blared. Emergency lights painted the corridors red, and the entire base plunged into darkness. "Emergency systems on," Reyes bellowed. "Seal all doors. Get everyone to main control." Dr. Voss stood frozen, her eyes wide with a terrifying realization as she stared at the open doorway. "It's not empty," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "We woke it up." Reyes grabbed her arm, his grip tight. "What did we wake up, Doctor?" Before she could answer, every screen in the command center flickered to life, displaying the same alien symbols, now moving faster, more urgently. The AI translator struggled, managing to spit out just 3 terrifying words. "The seal is broken." And then came the signal. It shot out from the moon like a bolt of lightning, hijacking every satellite, every ship, every communication network in its path. It reached Earth in seconds. Across the planet, people stared into the night sky as the moon itself flashed with a blinding, beautiful, terrifying blue light. For a moment, night became day. A profound silence fell over the earth. Then, nothing. The light faded. The moon hung in the sky, serene and unchanged, but it was a lie. Deep beneath its surface, something ancient and powerful was now awake, and it was listening. Back on Lunar Base Echo, Reyes and his surviving crew stood in the silent darkness. The hum of the air recyclers was the only sound. "Commander," a young technician stammered, his voice shaking. "We've lost contact with Earth." Reyes turned to the observation window. The glowing door stood wide open, its blue symbols pulsing like a slow, patient heartbeat in the dark. He looked at the silent, beautiful Earth hanging in the void and whispered to himself, "God help us. What have we done?" The silence after the breach was unbearable. No one moved. No one spoke. Only the strange blue light from the open doorway flickered across the dark walls of Lunar Base Echo. I stood in the control room, staring at the black monitors. Every system had crashed. Life support was on emergency backup. My crew's faces were pale, their eyes wide, all of them hoping this was just a glitch. But deep down, we knew it wasn't. Dr. Elena Voss was hunched over a cracked tablet, desperately trying to restart the scanners. "The power surge," she said quietly. "It came from inside the structure, not from our systems." I frowned. The light outside the crater pulsed in rhythm, like a monstrous heartbeat. Then, from deep within the alien structure, a voice whispered through the comms. It wasn't human. It was deep, slow, and filled with echoes like 1,000 voices speaking at once. "Guardians. Broken. The seal is undone." The crew froze. Static filled the air. The lights flickered, then stabilized into a dim, ominous red. "Who's transmitting?" I demanded. "No one, sir," the technician shouted back. "The signal's coming from below the moon's crust." I turned to the observation window. The crater looked like a sleeping monster, and we had just poked it awake. Suddenly, the base doors slid open. A figure stumbled in, Corporal Jensen from the mining team. His helmet was cracked, his face as pale as death. "They're gone," he gasped. "Everyone at the dig site gone." I grabbed him. "What happened?" Jensen's voice trembled. I saw lights, shapes, moving in the fog. "They weren't human, Commander. They walked through the walls." Dr. Voss stepped closer. "Did they attack?" He shook his head weakly. "No. They just looked at us. The moment they did, my suit started freezing from the inside out. Then I blacked out. When I woke up, everyone was gone." I clenched my jaw. "Seal that section off. No one goes near the crater again." But it was already too late. Outside, something massive began to shift beneath the lunar surface. The ground cracked. Dust floated into the air in slow, ghostly streams. The whole moon seemed to breathe, in and out, with a sound like groaning metal. "Seismic activity is rising," Voss shouted. "The readings are off the charts." On the command console, the alien runes reappeared. But now, they were rearranging themselves. The translation AI displayed one clear sentence. "The moon is not what you think." We stared at the screen, too afraid to speak. The AI began processing more data, scanning deeper. Massive hollow tunnels, energy chambers, mechanical cores. None of it was natural. Dr. Voss whispered, "The moon isn't a satellite, it's a construct, it's built." I turned slowly toward her. "Built by who?" Before she could answer, an automated emergency broadcast from Earth cut through the radio. "Attention all lunar stations. A global signal spike has reached the planet. Power grids failing worldwide. Satellites shutting down. The source is lunar. Repeat, the source is..." The message dissolved into static. The air felt thinner, as if something was draining the very life from the base. "All right, listen up," I ordered. "We get to the escape modules. We get off this rock now." But as we headed for the corridor, the hallway lights flickered and went dark. A soft blue glow replaced them, the same color as the door in the crater. And then we saw it. A tall figure at the far end of the corridor, motionless, glowing faintly. Its face was smooth, featureless, almost made of glass. The figure spoke without moving its mouth. "Do not awaken him." I stepped forward, weapon raised. "Who are you?" "We are the last of the Guardians. We sealed him within this moon to save your world. You have undone the seal." Dr. Voss's voice shook. Who did we wake?" The figure turned its head slowly. "The first warbringer. The one your kind calls the destroyer of suns." Before we could respond, the entire base shook violently. A deep roar thundered from below, shattering screens and screaming alarms. The figure's voice grew desperate. "You must leave. The Harbinger stirs. If he wakes—" It was cut off as a beam of light burst through the crater floor, straight into the sky. The moon's surface cracked open like glass. I fell to my knees, shielding my eyes. "What's happening?" Voss looked up, tears in her eyes. "It's not just a machine, it's a prison, and we just broke it open." Outside, the pulse of power spread toward Earth like a cosmic scream. Every sensor went dead. And then, for one silent moment, everything stopped. Then came the whisper, the same deep, echoing voice that shook our bones. "I am awake." I stared into the glowing crater, my heart pounding. I didn't know it yet, but humanity had just started a war older than the stars. A beam of moonlight, sharp as a sword, sliced through the endless dark of space. It raced past stars, its brilliance so intense it could be seen from the sunlit side of Earth. For 7 long minutes, the world went dark and silent. When the light finally receded, the moon was different. Strange, glowing cracks now webbed its surface like veins of blue fire pulsating with an alien energy. From the shattered observation deck of Lunar Base Echo, Commander Marcus Reyes watched, his hands shaking uncontrollably. The beam had torn through their outpost like a cosmic scythe, ripping half of it away. So many were missing. The survivors huddled behind fractured walls, their ears filled with a haunting low hum emanating from the crater. Dr. Elena Voss sat beside a broken console, her eyes glued to the flickering screen. She was replaying the last transmission from the figure of light they had encountered, the Guardian. Reyes turned, his gaze fixed on the black, gaping wound in the lunar surface. "Voss, what did we just do? What did we release?" Her face was a mask of shock, her voice barely a whisper. "An ancient weapon, a living entity, engineered for total war. The Guardians called it the Harbinger. They sealed it here, eons ago, and we just unlocked the cage." Reyes's jaw tightened, his knuckles white. "Then we're going to find a way to put it back in." But before another word could be spoken, the base's emergency lights sputtered and died again. The radios crackled, not with static, but with a deep, distorted voice that was decidedly not human. "You reached beyond your sky. You touched the forbidden light. Now, you will pay the cost of your hunger." The remaining crew froze. The voice wasn't coming from any speaker. It was inside their heads, a violation of their very thoughts. A young technician screamed, collapsing to the floor with blood streaming from his nose. "Make it stop, it's in my head." Reyes frantically slammed his helmet on, a futile attempt to block the psychic assault. It was useless. The voice slithered into every corner of his mind. "Your world has forgotten, but I remember. I remember the war. And the betrayal." Outside, the lunar dust around the crater began to swirl and rise, pulled upward by an unseen force. The glowing cracks on the moon's face expanded, connecting, forming a colossal, terrifying pattern. A symbol stretched across the entire visible surface. Dr. Voss gasped in recognition. "That's not just a pattern. It's a transmitter." Reyes spun to face her, his voice raw. "Transmitting to who?" Her voice broke with utter terror. "Not who. What?" Far beyond their tiny moon, deep in the cold abyss of interstellar space, something answered. Earth's deep space defense satellites shrieked alarms as they detected dozens of unknown energy signatures. The first grainy images that came through sent a wave of panic across the globe. They looked like ships, alien ships. On Earth, chaos erupted. On every screen, from Times Square to the smallest village, A single message appeared in glowing alien letters that burned in the sky. The seal is broken. Governments pointed fingers, blaming each other for the catastrophe. The United Nations scrambled to enact emergency defense protocols, but it was too late. Massive energy storms swept across continents, plunging the world into darkness. In orbit, Earth's fleet desperately hailed lunar base Echo, but there was only silence. Back on the moon, the last survivors gathered in what was left of the command room. Suddenly, the Guardian reappeared, its form flickering like a dying candle. "The Harbinger has sent the call," it whispered, its voice weak. "The armies of the old war are coming." Reyes stepped forward, his face a mask of determination. "Then help us stop them." The Guardian's light dimmed further. "We cannot. Our time is gone. But you are children of fire. You can fight." "How?" Voss pleaded. "We don't even understand your technology. You will, when the time comes." The Guardian raised a shimmering hand, and a small shard of pure light floated from its palm and into Voss's chest. She gasped, her mind flooded with a torrent of images, cities made of crystal, entire worlds burning, and a final apocalyptic battle where stars themselves were extinguished. Then the Guardian dissolved into nothing, gone forever. Reyes caught Voss as she stumbled. "Doctor, what did it do?" She looked up, her eyes wide with a terrifying new understanding. "It gave me knowledge, coordinates, to a weapon buried deep within the moon's core." Before he could process her words, the entire moon base shuddered violently. The surface cracked wider, and from the abyssal depths of the crater, a giant shadow began to rise. It wasn't machine, it wasn't organic. It was a shifting, swirling storm of pure energy, a nightmare form fluctuating between a monstrous beast and a cosmic tempest, glowing with an impossible light. The Harbinger was fully awake. Its voice boomed across the moon, across space, and echoed in the soul of every human alive. "This world once betrayed us. Now it will burn." An energy blast erupted from its core, vaporizing what was left of the crater. Reyes and Voss barely scrambled into a subterranean corridor as the walls behind them melted into slag. The base was gone. The war had just begun. At that exact moment, on Earth, astronomers screamed as the alien armada entered the solar system. Thousands of them, each glowing with that same ominous blue light. Reports flooded in. Total communication blackouts, orbiting stations going dark, and strange alien signals echoing from the deepest oceans. Humanity was no longer alone, and whatever was coming, it wasn't coming in peace. In the dust-choked corridor, Commander Reyes looked at the flickering console, then at Voss. "If we started this," he said, his voice grim, "then we'd better get to that weapon before they do." Far above them, the stars began to flicker as if in fear. Something ancient had returned, and it was calling the universe to war. Today, we're diving into a story that will send shivers down your spine and leave you questioning what truly lies beneath the surface of our own moon. Imagine this. The lunar ground beneath your feet isn't solid. It trembles. It cracks open with veins of blue fire, and the very air tastes of dust and ozone. This is the reality for Commander Marcus Reyes. The moon is dying. The research outpost Lunar Base Echo has been completely obliterated, swallowed by a massive explosion. Reyes and a handful of survivors, including the brilliant Dr. Elena Voss, are trapped in the deepest, oldest tunnels. But these aren't just mining shafts. As the ground shudders with the rhythm of a waking titan, they're about to discover a secret that predates humanity itself. Reyes rallies the few who are left, a couple of engineers, a medic, and Dr. Voss. But Voss is different. She clutches a strange glowing shard, a gift from a mysterious entity known only as the Guardian. The shard pulses beneath her skin, in sync with the moon's dying heart, feeding her visions, memories that aren't her own. She realizes the horrifying truth. These tunnels aren't for mining. They're containment chambers, a prison. Suddenly, a metallic footstep echoes from the darkness ahead. On high alert, Reyes and his crew push forward, their weapons raised. They enter a colossal chamber, its walls shimmering with alien metal and glowing symbols. And in the center, stretching into the gloom, are rows upon rows of crystalline pods. Inside each one, a silent, silver-skinned figure floats, trapped in timeless slumber. They're not machines, they're prisoners. As they stare in disbelief, one of the pods hisses open. A wave of cold air rushes out, and a tall, graceful being steps forward. Its eyes glow with a soft golden light. It's not hostile. When it speaks, its voice isn't heard with ears, but felt directly in their minds. "You are not of the old ones," it says. "You are their children." This is one of the Guardians. They won, but only by sealing the Harbinger within the moon's core. To maintain the prison, the Guardians made the ultimate sacrifice. They became its living walls, its eternal jailers. But now humanity's quest for resources has broken the seal. The sacrifice is undone. The Harbinger is waking up. The Guardian is weak, its power fading as the prison crumbles. It explains that the Harbinger is now feeding on the very energy that sustains the moon. As if on cue, another pod shatters, but the being inside dissolves into ash, unable to survive the prison's collapse. Hope seems lost. "Can you stop him?" Voss asks, her voice trembling. "No," the Guardian replies. "He grows stronger with every heartbeat. But there is one last chance." The Guardian looks at the shard glowing in Voss's chest. "You already carry it," it reveals. "The shard you hold is the heart of the seal. It can bind him again, but only if you reach the core." The core, at the very center of the moon, lying right beneath the Harbinger himself. Just then the moon roars. Blue light erupts from the cracks, and the Harbinger's power washes over them. It knows the heart is active, and it will come for it. Without a second's hesitation, Reyes takes charge. "We move now. Find a route to the core." Guided by the light of the shard, they descend deeper into the labyrinth. The tunnels are a nightmare. Strange whispers in forgotten languages claw at their minds, driving one of the engineers to madness. He sprints into the darkness and is lost forever. They press on, only to find their path blocked by a creature of molten light and shadow, a servant of the Harbinger. Plasma rounds pass right through it. But as it lunges, Voss instinctively raises her hand. A wave of pure energy erupts from the shard, obliterating the creature. She has no idea how she did it, but it worked. The heart obeys its bearer. Far above, the Harbinger's true roar shakes the stars. It is awake. It is waiting. Reyes looks up, his face set like stone. "We go to the core," he declares, "and finish what we started." Their journey into the moon's forgotten heart has just begun, a desperate race to stop an ancient evil from being unleashed upon the universe. What an incredible setup. A dying moon, ancient secrets, and a last-ditch effort to save everything. Somber, tense music begins with a low, pulsing hum. The tunnels trembled like the veins of a dying world. Every few seconds, a pulse of blue light flashed through the walls, followed by a deep roar that shook the very air. Commander Marcus Reyes and Dr. Elena Voss led the last survivors of humanity deeper into the moon's core, a desperate pilgrimage into darkness. The glowing shard embedded in Voss's chest was their only guide, but the deeper they went, the louder the whispers became. Ancient, chilling voices filled their helmets, speaking in a language older than the stars themselves. Reyes pushed them onward, his voice strained. "Move! We're close to the core!" But as he spoke, the tunnel ahead erupted in a blinding burst of blue fire. The shockwave threw them to the ground amid a storm of dust and sparks. When Reyes finally looked up, he saw it, a chamber so vast it defied comprehension. At its heart floated a sphere of molten light, a captive sun suspended by beams of pure black energy. Machinery, ancient and unknowable, hummed with unimaginable power around it. Dr. Voss stared, breathless. That's it, the core of the moon. But they weren't alone. A shape began to form within the light, a towering figure, colossal, with wings made of burning cosmic energy. The air around it rippled, distorting space itself. The Harbinger had awakened. Its voice crashed through the chamber, a sound that felt less like speech and more like physical impact. You took my chains, and now you will take my wrath. The survivors crumpled to their knees, clutching their heads, but the sound wasn't in the air. It was inside their bones, a resonance of pure terror. Reyes, however, stood firm. You want to fight? You got one. He leveled his plasma rifle. The round struck the Harbinger and simply vanished, swallowed by its radiant aura. The creature didn't even flinch. It raised one hand and the very ground cracked open. Surges of energy erupted, coalescing into smaller, ghostly beings of light and shadow. They screamed as they charged. Defensive positions, Reyes roared. The crew opened fire and explosions lit up the chamber, but the ethereal creatures kept coming, unstoppable. One by one, the humans fell, their suits torn apart by strikes they couldn't even see. Voss knelt beside a dying engineer, his eyes wide with horror. It's feeding, he choked out. It's feeding on us. The Harbinger laughed, a deep echoing sound that made the walls vibrate. You cannot kill what was born from stars. Voss looked down at the glowing shard in her chest. It pulsed brighter now, almost as if it were alive. Suddenly, a new voice, faint and calm, echoed in her mind. The heart of the seal answers to courage. Let it feel your will. Bolstered by this message, she stood, raising her trembling hands toward the cosmic entity. You want power? She shouted, her voice ringing with defiance. Then take mine. The shard in her chest exploded in a blinding wave of light. The energy slammed into the Harbinger, and for the first time it roared in pain. Voss, what did you do? Reyes yelled, shielding his eyes. I'm using the seal's power, but I can't control it, she screamed as arcs of lightning crawled across her body. The Harbinger's voice rumbled with fury. You think the seal can hold me again? You are nothing but dust pretending to be gods. It raised both hands, and the entire chamber began to collapse. The core flared brighter, tearing itself apart. Reyes grabbed Voss, pulling her behind a crumbling pillar. You can't beat him alone. You'll burn yourself out. Voss's eyes glowed with pure white light. Then we burned together. Before Reyes could stop her, she stepped forward, holding the shard high. The light from her body merged with the core's raw energy. For a fleeting moment, the chamber was filled with a radiance that eclipsed everything. Two immense forces colliding, one human, one ancient. The Harbinger screamed, a final agonizing sound that echoed across the desolate lunar surface. On Earth, the night sky lit up in electric blue as the oceans began to rise. Far above, aboard the orbiting defense fleet, Admiral Kor watched the moon glow like a dying sun. All ships fire at will, he commanded. Hundreds of missiles streaked through space, only to be absorbed by the Harbinger's impenetrable energy shield. Sir, a technician shouted, it's not working. The target's power is increasing exponentially. Kor's face was grim. Then prepare Project Dawn. But before humanity's last resort could be fired, an energy pulse from the moon struck Earth's orbit, disabling every satellite, every ship, every defense. Humanity was blind. Back in the disintegrating chamber, Reyes held on to Voss. Elena, stop! You'll die! Her voice was now a faint whisper. He has to be sealed, or none of us will live. She looked into his eyes, her tears glowing like starlight. Tell them humanity was worth saving. And then she released everything. The shard detonated brighter than the sun. The blast threw Reyes against the far wall. When the light faded, the Harbinger was gone. The chamber was collapsing into silence. Reyes crawled to where Voss had stood, but there was nothing left, only a faint shimmer in the air, a ghostly echo of her sacrifice. He fell to his knees. You did it, he whispered. You actually did it. As the chamber crumbled around him, the Guardian's voice spoke one last time in his mind. The seal is restored, for now, but the stars remember, and they are watching. Reyes looked up at the trembling ceiling. Then let them watch. Commander Reyes, to any human ship still alive. The moon's heart is sealed, but it's breaking apart. If you're hearing this, Don't give up. Humanity fights back. The signal faded into static as the moon, once again, went silent. The moon was silent. Half of its surface now glowed like burning glass, a gaping wound cracked open by the final explosion. From Earth, it looked like a scar across the night sky, a permanent reminder of the war we had barely survived. His helmet visor was shattered, precious oxygen hissing into the void. He coughed, a desperate gasp for air, but he was alive. "Elena," he whispered into his broken comms. Only silence answered, except for a faint low hum in the distance, the sound of something still breathing beneath the rock. He pushed himself up, his muscles screaming in protest, and looked toward home. Earth. A shining blue marble so beautiful and so fragile. "You're still out there," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "And I'm not done yet." He fumbled for his emergency beacon, his numb fingers finally activating it. A weak red light blinked, a tiny prayer in the vast emptiness. Then, a voice, crackling with static, broke through. "This is the Horizon Fleet. We have your signal. Hold tight, Commander. We're coming." For the first time in days, a real smile touched Reyes's lips. Humanity wasn't finished. 3 days later, the world was a different place. The moon's destruction had unleashed chaos. Massive energy storms raged across the planet. Oceans swelled and receded with unnatural tides, and entire cities went dark as communication networks collapsed. But in the shadows, humanity was fighting back. In a secret underground base in Nevada, the best of us, scientists, soldiers, and engineers, worked around the clock. They called it Project Dawnfire, our last desperate hope. Admiral Kor, the man who had ordered the strike on the moon, stood at the center of the command deck. His face was grim. "Our satellites are gone, our fleets are crippled, and the moon is a ticking time bomb," he said to the room. "But we still have one thing left, our will to survive." Dr. Ishra Endai, the project's chief scientist, stepped forward. "Project Dawnfire can focus all our remaining fusion cores into a single massive energy beam. It's not designed just to destroy. It can seal what's left of that thing inside the moon for good." Kor stared at the holographic image of the fractured lunar surface. "And if we miss?" Ishara met his gaze, her expression unyielding. "Then Earth burns." A heavy silence filled the command center. Then, with a single sharp nod, Kor gave the order. "Prepare it." In low orbit, the battered remnants of the Horizon Fleet drifted above the wounded Earth. Their ships were patched and scarred, but they held the line. On the bridge of the flagship Horizon 1, Commander Reyes stood tall. His eyes were hollowed by loss, but his spirit burned with defiance. He looked out at the fleet, dozens of ships, from nations that had once been enemies, now united by a common purpose. "This is it," Reyes's voice broadcast to every ship. "We're not fighting for glory, we're not fighting for revenge, we fight for home." A roar of cheers echoed through the comms as engines flared to life. Just then, a pulse of energy flashed from the moon. That same haunting blue light spread through its cracks. "Sir," a sensor officer yelled, "we're detecting movement on the lunar surface. Massive readings, it's back." Reyes's blood ran cold. "The Harbinger?" The officer nodded, his face pale. "And not just him. There are thousands of energy signatures forming around the crater. Through the main viewport, they saw it. Spectral shapes, ancient ships of light and shadow, rising from the moon like ghosts and drifting toward Earth." Reyes clenched his fists. "Then humanity makes its stand right here. No retreat." The alien fleet descended like a furious storm, beams of blue fire tearing through the void. The Horizon Fleet answered with everything it had. Plasma cannons, railguns, and missiles painted the darkness with brilliant flashes of light. It was chaos. Ships exploded, fragments of metal becoming shooting stars as they burned up in Earth's atmosphere. "Shields at 30%. We can't hold them," an officer cried out. Reyes gritted his teeth. "Redirect all power to the forward batteries. We take them down or we die trying." The Horizon 1 veered hard, unleashing its full arsenal at the lead alien vessel. The resulting explosion was immense, a blinding shockwave that gave humanity a brief moment of hope. His colossal form rose from the moon's ruins, twice as large as before. His wings of fire spread wide across space. "You think yourselves warriors." His voice thundered through every ship, a psychic assault. "You are ants beneath the stars." He raised his hand and Earth's magnetic field twisted. Violent electrical storms erupted across the planet's surface. Deep underground, Dr. Ishira's team raced against the clock. "Charging at 80%. We can't go higher, the containment field is breaking." "Then fire now," Ishara screamed. Hidden beneath the Nevada desert, a massive cannon rotated toward the sky, its barrel glowing white-hot. "Target locked." "Fire!" A pillar of pure light shot through the atmosphere, striking the Harbinger square in the chest. He screamed, a sound that shook every human soul. The alien ships around him flickered and vanished. From orbit, Reyes shielded his eyes. "Come on! Come on!" The Harbinger fought back, but the beam wrapped around him like chains of light. "You cannot seal me again," he roared. Reyes shouted through the comms, a challenge to a god. "You're wrong. Humanity learns fast." He turned his ship, aiming it directly at the Harbinger's heart. "All engines full thrust." "Sir, that's suicide." "I know." He allowed himself one last, fleeting smile. For Earth. The Horizon 1 slammed into the Harbinger, merging with the Dawnfire beam. The explosion was brighter than the sun. The moon shattered, and the blue light was gone. There was only silence. 1 week later, the skies were clear. The fragments of the moon had formed a glowing ring, a beautiful silent memorial in the night. Humanity had survived. Dr. Ishara stood before a shimmering glass wall in New Geneva, engraved with the names of the fallen. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "Reyes, you did it." And in the wind, a final, faint echo seemed to answer, "The seal holds, but beware, for every light casts a shadow." Far beyond our solar system, in the deep, cold dark, something else stirred. The war was over, or so humanity believed. The moon was gone, shattered into millions of glowing fragments that now formed a silver halo in the night sky, a silent, beautiful reminder of the price we paid for peace. On Earth, the storms had calmed, the skies were blue again, and humanity was healing. But far beyond our reach, in the deepest black of space, something ancient was stirring. 3 months after the final battle, Dr. Ishara and I stood in the observatory dome above the rebuilt city of New Geneva. The stars sparkled with a peace that felt wrong. She still wore the same coat from the war, its fabric burned and torn, a personal relic of the conflict. Every night she came here, listening to the static, hoping to hear his voice one last time. "Reyes." But there was only ever silence. Then, one night, the silence broke. Her console flickered to life. A weak signal, almost lost in the noise, pulsed across the screen. It was coded in an old fleet frequency, one that hadn't been used in years. She froze, her heart pounding. Impossible. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, decoding the transmission. The result made her blood run cold. The signal source? The outer solar orbit. The signal ID? Horizon 1. Reyes's ship. But that ship was destroyed, she whispered to the empty room. The signal repeated, but this time a voice came through, faint and distorted, like a ghost on the stellar wind. "They are not gone. The stars remember." And then, static. In the crushing darkness beyond Neptune, a structure the size of a small moon drifted silently. It was a temple, forged from black metal and solidified starlight, its surface shimmering with strange, pulsing runes that glowed like a cosmic heartbeat. Inside, the broken remains of the Harbinger floated, bound by chains of golden energy. His wings were gone, his body was shattered, but his eyes still burned with defiant fire. Before him stood 3 colossal beings, taller than mountains, wrapped in light so bright it was painful to behold. These were not like the Harbinger. They were older, wiser. They were the star gods. You failed, one said, her voice echoing through the void. The humans were not your enemies, said the third, its voice filled with a sorrow that spanned eons. They were your children. The harbinger snarled, a weak, pathetic sound. They are insects, unworthy of the fire. The first star god stepped forward, her eyes glowing like twin suns. And yet those insects sealed you, something even we once failed to do. She raised her hand and a storm of pure energy surged around the fallen guardian. Rest now, fallen one. Your time is over. With a final, silent roar, the harbinger's body dissolved into a cloud of starlight, scattered among the endless black. Back on Earth, Ishara gathered the remaining fleet commanders and scientists in the underground chamber of Project Dawnfire. On the main screen, she displayed ancient markings, ones discovered in the lunar ruins just before the moon's destruction. These aren't alien symbols, she explained, her voice steady. They match the genetic code of humans. The room fell silent. You mean, we're connected to them? An officer finally asked, his voice trembling. Ishara nodded. We weren't an accident. We were left behind. The ancients, the star gods, once used Earth as a cradle. Humanity, we are their legacy. Admiral Kor leaned forward, his face grim. Then why did they abandon us? Ishara took a deep breath. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they were protecting us. She pointed to a hologram of the harbinger. He was their guardian, but something changed him. He turned against them, and they sealed him inside our moon. And when we breached it, Kor finished, we freed their greatest mistake. As the images cleared, the world watched in stunned silence. 3 massive structures like burning crowns of light drifted toward the inner planets, each one pulsing with energy beyond comprehension. Then, a voice was transmitted across all frequencies, a voice that was calm, vast, and impossibly ancient. Children of Earth, we have returned. Is this real? Admiral Kor whispered, staring at the feed. It's them, Ishara said, her eyes wide with awe. The star gods. The voice continued, resonating in every home, in every heart. You carry our fire, our legacy. You fought the darkness and survived. For that we come not as rulers, but as witnesses. The stars are awakening. Others will come. Those who remember the war that ended before your world began. You must stand ready. And then, silence. In the weeks that followed, the world united as never before. Old flags were lowered and a new one was raised, not for any nation, but for Earth itself. Using fragments of the Dawnfire Project and the Harbinger's remains, humanity began building its first interstellar fleet. They called it the Guardian Armada. Dr. Ishara stood at the launch site, watching the first ship rise into the sky, its hull engraved with a single honored name, Reyes. As its engines ignited, she whispered to the stars, we were never alone. We were never weak. Above her, the ring of lunar fragments sparkled like a promise. And deep in the cosmos, beyond the Milky Way, eyes older than suns opened, watching the tiny blue world that had just defied extinction. A cold whisper filled the void. The fire of Earth burns again, and this time the stars will tremble. Stars,